EFCC has also been indicted, so to speak, that there's corruption eating into the EFCC at this time. So is it that we should look at the style of prosecution by the EFCC, that the EFCC needs to have more facts before even prosecuting?
You see, the very people that will say this, that EFCC needs to have more facts before prosecuting, are the same people that also begin to castigate EFCC for not prosecuting a matter, an allegation that has long been with them. In the case of Akingbola. Now, when this allegation came against Akingbola, an investigation started. Now, it became necessary. When EFCC, for instance, I as a private legal practitioner in Abuja, I have taken personal interest in economic and financial crime. And so I know a little of what happened in this matter, and I've been following the development. Now, EFCC did not wait, could not afford to wait to conclude all investigation in this matter because Akingbola bolted away. And so the facts that EFCC was able to gather and the evidence they were able to gather, they came up with a charge for which it became necessary after Akingbola had come back to this country to amend. So of course, judicial proceeding was already set in motion, and that is necessary. So it is never the style of EFCC. Well, I am not competent to speak on that, but I think as far as Akingbola's matter is concerned, I don't think that the prosecution or the lawyer representing the prosecution or the complainant in this matter has never shown any evidence of tardiness. For goodness sake, Isi Okala is an established legal practitioner. Chief Godwin Obla, these are established and reputable legal practitioners. For somebody to castigate them that they were sturdy, they were indolent, I think was the worst of all possible way to say against those legal practitioners. I think it was a Philistine statement to make against.
But it's also been alleged, so to speak, that some of these lawyers, so to speak, that we call the SANs, the senior advocates of Nigeria, do parade themselves in ways that are not too comfortable, so to speak, at the end of the day. Because if you also listen to what Justice Achibong said on Monday, it was quite an indictment on the SANs.
Well, for Justice Achibong, I think Justice Achibong was following a pattern, a judicial pattern of attitude that has been laid down in the past. I'm sorry to say with the greatest respect. Now, if we could recall, it was this same justice...
Laid down in the past by himself?
He himself.
Okay.
Now, if we could recall, and such attitudes have been quite deprecated by the Court of Appeal. If we could recall, it was the same justice who shut down the operation of two banks, Keystone and Mainstream Bank. On what? On mere ex parte application. A few months ago. It was from the same judicial stable. It was the same Justice Achibong in Enugu that gave order stopping the constitutional function of National Election Tribunal, National Assembly Election Tribunal. Gave order against the justices. It was the same justice. That has never been heard in the history of our jurisprudence. We also recall that it was the same Justice Achibong in the case of FRM versus Daniel. Now, Daniel was charged by the NDLA for possessing India hemp. Now, Daniel confessed to the commission of this crime and admitted his guilt. And now, as it is incumbent of the prosecution now went ahead to review the facts and tender exhibits. Now, Justice Achibong Sumotu, on his own, now said that Daniel was arrested without warrant and went ahead to discharge and acquit Daniel. The matter went on to Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal, on no equivocal term, deprecated the attitude. So I think what has happened on the 2nd of April was consistent with the pattern, I'm sorry to say with the greatest respect, of the justice.
Now, are you worried about the signal that he could be sending, so to speak, bearing in mind financial impropriety or mismanagement of financial resources? And do you think that it should be handled with kid gloves? Because if I even go on our Facebook page right now, a lot of people are sending us messages that you steal billions in Nigeria and you move freely, but you steal probably 1,000 naira in a village and you get 15 years imprisonment. So at the end of the day, what signal does this make?
I think I am quite worried, Nancy. I'm worried because this thing is painting us in a bad light. beyond saying, beyond the talk about our system, that is our society, I think those that are being entrusted with the duties of administering our justice, I think it will be presumptive for us to think that because they are there, they know it all. I think the NJC, the body responsible to monitoring the affairs of our judicial system, I think needs to do much more work. Because I think that it's unfortunate that we just, with that kind of flippant remark, a case of that magnitude could be thrown out. Could be thrown out. Now, assuming the prosecution came up with amendments, now should the solution be to throw out the case? Is it to throw out the case? Assuming Justice Achibong was correct, that the prosecution was coming up with amendment, and in any case, he could only mention 3 amendments, which is not correct. On the 2nd of April, that was the second time the prosecution was coming up with an amendment, and I've already told you the background of that amendment. It became necessary when Akingbola came back to the country, and he was interrogated, and fresh facts emerged, and it became necessary for the prosecution to amend the charge to reflect those new or fresh facts. So it beats me.
You know, I need to ask this question, yes. As how worrisome is it again? Because I think, was it not last week, an Abuja High Court, using a similar language, yes, tossed the case against Ndudi Elumelu, so to speak. How, it's, you know, it's so worrying, because since Monday I've been reading a whole lot of comments from people, even on our Facebook page and other websites, people particularly not comfortable with what's happening right now. So is this right now a case of corrupt judges, so to speak, or incompetent sons?
Well,
or it seems right now that the judiciary system that was ab initio commended among the 3 arms of government as the thing that we are holding dear right now in our hearts that is actually doing well, is seemingly not doing its job anymore, is seemingly bedeviled by corruption.
Well, when it comes to administration of justice, a lot of things come to play. Now, you may not be far wrong to say corruption, and beyond that, there is also the issue that bedevils our judicial system now. I'm sorry to say, with all respect, sometimes the intellectual inadequacy of those that are entrusted with the duty of administering our justice system, the intellectual adequacy, the inability to appreciate the nuance of the law, I think goes a long way in affecting the problem that we are confronted with today in our judicial, in our justice administration. We have talked so much about corruption in the judiciary. I think we need to look beyond corruption to now begin to look at sometimes the intellectual inadequacy of those that are saddled with the duty of administering our justice system. Because another may be handed down on account of the person doing so not appreciating the law. And when it happens, you see, I myself am embarrassed with the kind of remarks in the media. It's already in the public domain.
Okay.
And these people are not quite aware. Now, if you can do a lot more investigative journalism in respect of this Akingbola matter, now you will understand that on that day, if a judge grants an order or an application for amendment, of course, the accused person will need to be arraigned afresh. To take a plea of the accused person need to be taken afresh. But that was not done. As we are talking, Akingbola's plea was never taken on that amended charge. Now, on what basis did the judge throw out the case against Akingbola? His plea was never taken. That is the truth.
Now, what's next, so to speak, right now? What do you think is next? Because other cases, Francis Atuche and other CEOs are also still pending. What actually is next? What do you think?
Well, for Akingbola, of course, the order will be challenged. That order dismissing that case will be challenged. It will be challenged. It cannot stand. It is clearly illegal, unconstitutional, and incompetent. The court did not and does not have jurisdiction to make that order it made at that time.
The court did not have jurisdiction to make that order at that time?
Yes, at that time. One, because that order was made not on the application of any of the council. Nobody applied that that order be made. And assuming the court could so motu on its own raise up that issue, the law enjoins him to throw the issue to the parties, to the council, to address him on it, and that was not made. And mind you, it was this same judge, while the charge was pending against Akingbola, Akingbola went to court and filed a suit against EFCC. Now, on the day this matter came up, I think on the 27th of October or thereabout, J.B. Dauda appeared before Justice Achipo. And now what happened? And informed the judge that there were pending applications for them to take. And without the application taken, the judge dismissed the motion of EFCC without it being heard. It's on record. You can check. It's on record. And that is the pattern that has been established by Justice Achibong.
So you're actually worried about the judicial precedence? I
am worried. Not just, I'm worried about the attitude, I'm sorry to say, of some of our judicial officers. It is worrisome, quite worrisome. And I think it's high time the Nigeria Judicial Council intervened. It's quite worrisome.
Okay, because we're coming to the end of this segment, let me just quickly take a comment from Facebook pages, if I'm allowed to say that. Sheon Joseph is saying, let me see, okay, Sheon Joseph is saying that, of course, what we saw is a tragedy and is actually sad. Okay. Oshere Sikiru is saying, I think Nigeria is a country where law is for less privileged or the poor, but not for the rich. A cow thief can be sentenced to years imprisonment, but billions naira thieves will be moving freely. Quite a whole lot of comments here. Yes. I will take them in the course of the show, though, and that's how some people feel about what happened on Monday. We'll continue to follow that situation very closely. Okay. But I really want to thank you for being on the show this morning and sharing your own perspective. All right, I've been speaking with Chris Agbiti. He's a legal practitioner. We've been looking at what happened on Monday. A federal high court in Lagos dismissed charges of fraud against the former CEO of Intercontinental Bank, Erastus Akingbola. We'll continue to keep our eyes close on that. But of course, that was for the lack of diligent prosecution by the EFCC. Let's quickly take a break. And when we come back, we'll be looking at human capital development. Join us again. All right, welcome back. Just before the break, I talked about human capital development. That's what we'll be looking at today, of course, in the course of financial system strategy, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, FSS. Joining me right now, I have three guests. I will start from my far left. The man on the spectacles, he is Laoye Jayola. He is the president as well as chairman of the council CIBN, that is Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. And close to him, the woman in the middle is Dr. Mrs. Lucy Newman. She is chairperson HCDIC, that's Human Capital Development Implementation Committee. She is also the CEO of FITC. Just before the break, I was telling her, I think FITC means Financial Institutions Training Center. I hope I got that right. Okay, welcome to the show. And last but not the least, to my immediate left is Dr. Mutka Usman. Did I get that right?
No, correct.
I'm correct?
No.
Okay, can you correct me, please?
Mutka Usman.
Mutka Usman.
Yeah.
Okay, he is representing us. Welcome to the show, though. We will be talking about human capital development. I think I'll start with Mr. Jariola. What actually is human capital? Let me go as simple as that, isn't it? So people will understand. You know, because we're always using that term loosely, so to speak. I think so. Like, our human capital in the country is low, whatever. But what actually is human capital?
Well, again, I'm going to go very, I'm going to pick the key elements there.
Okay. Okay.
That way we can understand. First and foremost is the stock. You know, you take your human capital as at a point in time. I mean, for me, it's the stock of the competencies, of the skills, and the personality, knowledge and personalities embodied in labor to be able to deliver on whatever we have economic value. In other words, if you take a person or a group of people that work in a sector, what is the totality of competencies, knowledge, and things they have to be able to give economic value to their stakeholders? That is, I mean, a very simple way of trying to explain it.
Madam, you want to add a little bit to what he said?
Yes. I would add the fact that he mentioned a group of people. The group of people, you can look at it in terms of a unit of a family. You can look at it in terms of a cluster within an organization. You can look at it in a cluster within a country. And you can also a cluster globally. Then the second part I would like to add to what he said is that you look at it in terms of value add to the system of that cluster of skills competencies, and also the cost to the system in terms of the investment.